So your final will be May 7th, and it'll be available from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Take the exam within a 2-hour and 15-minute time limit. It's cumulative, so it's everything you've learned from the beginning of the semester. You can have an 8.5 by 11, so one-sided sheet of paper allowed, and it needs to be handwritten. Okay, you cannot copy and paste problems. It has to be a handwritten, one-sided sheet of paper. So please scan this sheet of paper in with your exam. So closed book, closed notes, just that sheet of paper is all that you are allowed to have. And you cannot take the exam at an earlier time due to the nature of this course being online. Okay. Please email me if you have any concerns or questions about that. Okay, so final exam topics: trig, algebra, vectors, and Giancoli chapter 1 through 4. Kinematic equations will be given, so something like this will be given. So how to study for the finals: study problems in the quiz and lecture slides, and study homework problems. You can also look over math material and the book, and go to the essay session that will be, your essay coaches will give you more information when the essay session is. Okay, so be sure to do the first two. Look over lecture slides and homework problems and quiz problems. Okay, so let's do some problems or talk about what will be on the test. The quadratic formula, know the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So solve this quadratic formula equal to 0. What is x? To make this equation equal to 0, a is 2, b is negative 3, c is negative 2, so x equals negative b 3 plus or minus square root b squared negative 3 squared, which is 9, b squared minus 4, a 2, c is negative 2, all over 2a, which is 2. Okay, that's 3 plus or minus square root of 9 plus 16 over 4. This is 25, so it's 3 square root of 25 equals to 5, so it's 3 plus or minus 5 over 4. So that's 2, or 3 minus 5 is negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. So x is 2 or negative 1/2. So the main thing about the quadratic formula is make sure you put a parentheses over the negative 3. So it's negative 3 squared, so that's 9. And minus 4 times 2 times negative 2, so the final answer here will be a positive number. Okay, so then you have factoring. So you can either do trial and error. So you know that this term here times this term here is going to be 2x squared. You also know that this term, this number, and this number, so a 1 and a negative 2 is going to be, this 1 times negative 2 is equal to negative 2 here. So that's what you know. So just try it out and distribute out the terms and see what you get. So I have 2x squared minus 4x plus x minus 2. So that's 2x squared minus 3x minus 2, and yeah, that's the equation that we want. So this is correct. So I got this on my first try. But if you didn't get that on the first try, you can just move things around and see if the final answer will be this equation. Okay, or you can use the quadratic formula to help you. Okay, so we can use a quadratic formula to find the roots of this equation. So we found the roots to be 2 and -1/2. So one term will be x minus 2 equals to 0, or x minus 2, because that means x minus 2 equals to 0, so x equals to 2, which is what we found, x equals to 2. The other part is that the other factor term relates to this x plus 1/2 equals to 0, because we found that the other root was -1/2. So here, if you minus this term, yes, x will equal to -1/2. So roots means that when you plug this into this equation, that it'll equal to 0. Okay, so we have x minus 2 equals to 0 and x plus 1/2 equals to 0. So just multiply. We don't want this ratio, or this fraction, so we're going to multiply this whole equation by 2 to get rid of that fraction. So that's 2x plus 1 equals to 0. So then I have 2x plus 1 equals to 0. So this 2x plus 1 is that other term, that other factor term. So I have an x minus 2 multiplied by 2x plus 1, and that will give you the equation. Okay, so you can use the quadratic formula to help you figure out the factors as well. Okay. So now let's factor this. So if you have something like x squared minus something squared, and how do you factor that? That's x plus the square root of this number times x minus the square root of this number. So for example, x squared minus 4, you can square root this. So this is minus 2 squared. So that equals to x plus 2 times x minus 2. If you have something like x squared minus 25, you can square root the 25. Square root of 25 is 5, so x squared minus 25 equals to x plus 5 times x minus 5. Okay, so here we have the two factor terms, 2x plus 1 times x minus 2. This is x plus 2 times x minus 2. We can cancel out the x minus 2 terms. So the final answer is 2x plus 1 over x plus 2. So no factoring, know the quadratic formula, know how to make common denominators and how to divide fractions. Okay, so 1/2 divided by 3/2 is equal to 1/2 multiplied by this flipped. So this is on the top and this is on the bottom. So multiply by 2/3. The 2's cancel out, so that equals to 1/3. Okay, so let's just try to quickly go over this. So think of it as this top term and this bottom term. I want to combine these two terms to make it one term. How do I do that? I want to make a common denominator. So I can combine these two terms. So the common denominator is c minus 1. So 1 equals to c minus 1 over c minus 1. Okay, so let's just focus on this top term first. Let's combine these two terms. So that's c minus 1 plus 1 over the common denominator, c minus 1. Okay, that's that top term there. Okay, same thing on this bottom term. Common denominator, c minus 1. So 1 equals to c minus 1 over c minus 1. Okay, let's combine these two terms to 1. So that's c minus 1 minus 1 over the common denominator is c minus 1. Here. Okay, so we have a top term, we have a bottom term. Now we want to multiply this fraction. So we need to flip this fraction. So it's this term multiplied by this flipped. Okay, so that's c1 minus 1 on the top, and c minus 1 is on the bottom. Okay, so it's this term here multiplied by this flipped. So c minus 1 over c minus 1 minus 1. The c minus 1 in parentheses cancel out. Okay, so c minus 1 plus 1 equals to c. C minus 1 minus 1 is c minus 2. So this is the final answer. Okay, you should also know exponents. So know all these properties. 2 to the 8th times 8 to the 2nd power. So 8 is 2 to the power of 3. Okay. 2 to the power of 3 to the 2nd power. What property would you use? It's this property here. You multiply the exponents. Okay, so this equals to 2 to the 6th. You multiply 3 times 2, so 6. Okay, now this, what property do we use here? Look to your left here. Which property? It's this one, number 1. Okay, so you add the exponents here. So a to the r times a to the s, it's going to equal to a to the r plus s. So you add the exponents. So that's 8 plus 6. So this equals to 2 to the power of 14. Okay, so the problem would ask you simplify this, and that would give you this. Okay, simplify this. You also should know radicals. Okay, so square root of a times b equals to, you can make this into square root of a times square root of b. Or if they're apart like this, you can put it all under the same radical. Okay, so 2 terms, you're going to combine them to 1 when it's multiplication. For division, it's square root of a over b equals to square root of a over square root of b. Okay, so simplify this. We're going to make these 2 terms into 1 term, but put that square root over the whole thing. So 2x square root of this whole thing, so x times y times x divided by y. Y over negative 2 is dividing by y. Okay, so that's x squared, and then the y's cancel out. So 2x square root of x squared. Square root of x squared is x. If you need an explanation of that, square root is equal to x to the 1/2. Cube root is equal to, cube root of x equals to x to the 1/3. Okay, so square root of x is 1/2. So it's x squared times 1/2. Okay, and that equals, the 2's cancel out, that equals to x. So square root of x squared equals to x. So 2x times x is 2x squared.